Virginia Tech is playing number 13, South Carolina in Atlanta, 3 p.m. on ESPN. The Beamer Bowl, for a lot of different reasons. I think they're honoring Frank Beamer before the game, so you've got that. Shane Beamer, of course, played at Virginia Tech, coached at Virginia Tech. Now he's the head coach at South Carolina, coming off a great year. South Carolina's an 8-point favorite. I found this spread to be a little low initially.
Really? Hmm.
And I know South Carolina loses a lot, especially on that defense. And that defense was elite last year. And they lose a lot of guys. But they bring back Lenora Sellers, who people are putting in the Heisman discussion. And maybe, Mac, outside of our ACC bubble, people are like, oh, it's Virginia Tech. Like, they're going to be a solid 7-8 win team. And a lot of years they are. They go 6-7 last year. But maybe it's more in the ACC bubble. It's like panic button about Virginia Tech. And that's why the spread surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think it's more because South Carolina lost so much, which is a ton and a big deal, and specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Also, it's going to be a gritty game, right? I think there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of interesting, kind of nuggets with the Beamer family and Virginia Tech and wanting to win this game, maybe the more, fuel to the fire there. But, you also have a coach and Coach Pry that's probably needing a big win and needs to get off on a hot start because historically, as long as I can, remember us doing this thing, they have not. They've been very slow starters. And so, I don't know. It is interesting just to see that. I thought the number was fine. I didn't think either way of it, but just how it rolls and how it unfolds, we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. And I think starting with Virginia Tech, you got a new offensive coordinator coming in, Coach Montgomery, who was in the UFL the last couple of seasons, winning championships, winning world championships in the UFL and the USFL with the Birmingham Stallions there. Or the XFL, excuse me, which is a big deal, right? And high-level football, pro football. And, they were very successful offensively, very quarterback-friendly systems that scored a lot of points, moved the ball, ran the ball effectively. And so I'm excited for Kyron Drones to be in that. I'm excited for Kyron Drones to be with an offensive coordinator that is very experienced, that knows what he's looking at and how to make you better. And how does that translate? Because Kyron, I believe, can still take another step. I thought we'd see that last year. Some injuries, some things, occurred, whatever, and we did not. Do we see that now? Is this the final form? Does he get fully unlocked? They bring in, some receivers that I think they feel good about. Donovan Green being a guy that, for years we thought was going to be amongst the best in the ACC, and injuries and things of that nature kind of held him back. And he kind of do. Those guys are on similar paths in regards to getting their full potential. And then just, the run game. Who's going to step up? How much is Kyron going to be asked upon, to run the football? And can this offensive line get going forward and be a really improved unit? Those are kind of the 3-4 things offensively, which is whole offense, that I'm really interested in seeing, what does it unfold? But really specifically, I'll be dialed in for that first game.
Kyron Drones is super talented. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Now, does he have, and I saw a quote where he talked about, it's kind of nice to have an offensive coordinator now that wasn't a former offensive lineman, which, Mac, I don't know if you were offended by that.
So, I was a former tight end, so I'm not offended.
You are a former tight end, yeah. So maybe there will be, a little more quarterback friendly, a little more creativity. My big question, of course, is who's going to step up? As you mentioned, you lose all 5 starters on the O-line, you lose your 3 top wide receivers, and you lose Bashal Tootin, who's with the Jaguars now. And I was concerned reading through Brent Pry's last press conference, some of the quotes. Terrion Stewart was the guy that they really wanted to be the running back. And I know he's had some injuries in camp, but Mac, this quote, I'm not sure I've ever seen a coach say this about a player. He said, quote, this is what Brent Pry said, he's had what I would say is an average camp. I wish we felt a little better about it. Like, that's tough. And I know it's probably part of that's injuries, but this was
part of it's probably money's involved, and they probably paid him a bunch of money. And they're like, it wasn't worth the investment. I don't know that. He came in from Bowling Green. He was supposed to be kind of the guy. So that also just gives me some pause. Like, okay. So I do think you're going to ask Kyron Drones to do a lot. But as we alluded to on the other side of the ball, South Carolina, yeah, they were great last year, but they lost a lot of guys. Kyle Kennard, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, plus so many different pieces. So they're going to be replacing a lot. And I think with a new OC for Virginia Tech, there are
South Carolina may not know exactly what to expect.
Correct.
Obviously, you're not sure which guys are gonna be there skill position wise. So
Yeah.
I think there's some opportunities there. My other question, Mac, with this Virginia Tech defense is slowing down Lenora Sellers because this
Mhm.
guy is a problem. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw what he's done to a lot of really good teams. That's a big question in this game.
No, there's no question about that at all because he is such a talented player. And I mean, we saw firsthand as Clemson folk, it was
Yeah,
bad. It was really, really bad. And so, how much has he grown? How much has he expanded his game? He was voted the first team All SEC quarterback coming
yeah.
into this deal from the coaches, whoever else votes on that. Which I think that was pretty impressive because there's some
Over
good players in there.
Nussmeyer.
Nussmeyer, AP second team All American, and that guy's getting the nod. And so there's some expectation with that, but I think he's ready for that. And, I think he's a young man that, really is just a humble dude that loves to play ball, passionate about what he does, and he's a great player. So how much has he grown? How much has his, game developed, throwing the football a little bit more accurately? What wide receivers for him are going to step up? And then,
Mhm,
like you said, how do you stop him? What do you do? My suggestion would to be not putting on a smaller, faster defender to try to tackle him. I'd leave your biggest, baddest dudes on the field just from experience. That's what I would do. And who is that? And how can you contain that without changing your coverages or losing a
mhm.
guy in coverage? How can you tell your edge rushers, hey, don't rush too far upfield, like kind of get to a spot and then wait. And we don't want to make him even more elusive and give him these massive running holes. So this is a fascinating game in regards to how do you combat that? How do you
Mm.
attack that when you have such a special player back there? And the interesting thing too is you face this again the next week in Diego Pavia. So you have these two games in a row that are huge games, really big games for you, very monumental and momentum grabbers if you're able to win them. So I have to imagine they started preparing pretty early in camp, knowing the ramifications of those. And they might have not have said, hey, it's South Carolina prep or hey, this Vandy prep, but they're doing drills where quarterbacks are moving around a little bit more. They're doing drills where things are a little bit more tuned, to this. And how do they combat that? I am truly fascinated to see.
That's a good point, Mac. Because yeah, you have a very, very similar team the week after in Vanderbilt. And I'm gonna give let's make a pick on this game. I'm gonna give you an unfortunate stat from our great intern, Nick, that, Brent Pry has never beaten a ranked team.
Yeah.
He's 0 and
Cool.
5 against ranked teams, and obviously that's been the problem for Virginia Tech, right? And of course, Virginia Tech fans are thinking, "Well, we beat Miami. Uh, the refs tried to take that one away," and I hear you, Virginia Tech fans, I very much hear you. But this game, again, being in Atlanta, I think Virginia Tech fans look, Virginia Tech fans, we love you.
Yeah.
You guys always travel. You guys are the best. Um, Atlanta, a little closer to Columbia, so I think you will have, a good amount of fans there from South Carolina. I tend to lean South Carolina -8. I think the number's kinda small. Maybe that's what Vegas wants me to think, Mac,
Yeah.
as you've been telling me.
Right.
But for Virginia Tech, look, if you don't win this game, let's let's show up, right?
Yeah.
Let's show that, okay,
Compete. Yeah.
we
Compete.
can be competitive here. And then you get Vanderbilt back at Lane Stadium. To me, that's a much more winnable game. And then
Hmm.
you move on to Old Dominion, Wofford, and you move on to your schedule. So
Right.
I'm leaning Gamecocks here, Mac.
Yeah, I think that's the pick, and it's kinda until proven otherwise for Virginia Tech, right? Like, there was so much excitement, we were super high on last year, and it just fell flat on its face, and I think there's a pretty substantial talent gap here as well, similar to what we said about Alabama and FSU. Now, not quite that drastic, but when you have a guy in Nick Harbor that is the fastest dude in the world at 6'5" at wide receiver, when you have, Rashul Faison back, the running back that South Carolina fans are ecstatic about, that he's now available. When you have Dylan Stewart, who is just a monster at the defensive end position, Virginia Tech better have a plan for him. By the way, he needs your full attention.
Yeah.
That 8 number sounds pretty good. I think South Carolina will win by 10 or more, and I think there's a lot of like I said, motivation for old Coach Beamer. Don't know why, but I think there's a little motivation for him. So
Yeah, I think
as
there
much
is.
as it hurts me to say, and I guess we actually don't. This is great. I don't have to talk about them again until Thanksgiving. I don't like to pick these guys too often,
I
so
know. It feels
kind of
very icky.
gross. Kind of gross.
What is Frank Beamer wearing pregame?
South Carolina stuff for sure.
Really?
For
He's
sure.
really? Really?
Maybe a split shirt, but for sure.
I don't know if I believe that. I mean, I get that maybe there's some bad blood or something, but, like, dude, you are Virginia Tech. I've seen
Was.
him at women's basketball games when I'm doing games up there. He's
That's
still up
pretty
there.
cool. That's cool. I like that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
like, I hope that he's wearing some Virginia Tech, maybe a little half and half. I understand you're gonna I obviously, you want your son to succeed, I totally get that, but come on, I hope Frank's doing that.